Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Blitz Growth. Super excited to have you listening in because you are in for a treat. We have an amazing guest here. But before I jump in, don't forget to hit subscribe and let us know if you're enjoying these podcast episodes. I really appreciate the feedback. And today we have an amazing guest that's going to teach you a lot about Pinterest. So we have Craig Lewis here, who runs one of the few Pinterest agencies that have been an approved partner. So very high status in the Pinterest world. He's achieved this by spending years and years mastering the platform and understanding really how to get growth and sales, followers, engagement, and traffic out of Pinterest. So today we're going to go through how brands, individuals, and influencers can use Pinterest to generate all those amazing things, because it is a hidden strategy that not too many brands or influencers have tapped into. And I feel like it's the kind of like the dark horse out of the social ad platforms and even the social platforms in general. But Craig, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me on. And yeah, it's going to be good fun sharing and answering some of the questions and points you've mentioned. And yeah, I totally agree with you. I think Pinterest is a dark horse. For whatever reason, it's just overlooked. I don't know why. Maybe it's part of Pinterest messaging from years ago where they weren't quite sure exactly what the platform was, but now it's changed for sure. And yeah, I think more and more people, especially e-commerce owners and brand owners, are kind of coming around to it. But it's interesting, it's been around for so long, and only now it seems to be getting traction, which is kind of interesting.
For those of us who are not following and haven't taken up the opportunity of Pinterest, like, what's a super quick overview on how do you describe the value that Pinterest can bring to people and brands? Like, what's the kind of that aha moment that when you're talking to brands, like they're like, oh, I really want to do this now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's 2 points to it, and these are the 2 points that we kind of use in our marketing and messaging with e-commerce brands. Is most people assume Pinterest is like social media, but the reality is it's a search engine. It's just a visual search engine. So when you shift the mindset from likes and engagement and comments, like they all have valid reasons to be on Pinterest. When you shift away from that being the focus, and the focus around being for SEO, ranking your content, keywords, descriptions that actually match what it is that you're doing, it becomes an entirely different beast. And then on top of that, so that's the organic. And then on top of that, you also have a really upgraded paid advertising manager. In the last 12 months, it's completely changed. And you now have some very good ad campaigns that are available, some really good retargeting, the conversion campaigns, and also traffic campaigns. And you have some other variations, but yeah, it's totally different. And I think a lot of brands that did have attempted Pinterest, and this is feedback we've had, they've used it thinking it's social media, didn't get the results with the organic. And then maybe this was a few years ago, they attempted to use the paid ads manager, and it just was like, didn't do anything. And I can see why. And it's like we've had to kind of point out that it's not social, it's a search engine. And now the paid ads manager is a totally different beast now.
Interesting. Okay. So when you're marketing on Pinterest, you should come at it across as doing SEO actions rather than, social media actions. So, with SEO, you're obviously writing blog posts and that sort of thing. What are the things that you're optimizing on Pinterest in that SEO sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. Everything. And maybe if I can give a quick rundown. So you have the macro and the micro. So the macro stuff is make sure the text on images that are published, make sure they are words that are keyword rich or things that people are actually looking for, because Pinterest will scan the images and it will pick up the image, but it also read the text. So if you have text that's on the image that people are actually looking for, that's going to help. Then you have your standard descriptions. So then you can write all of the keywords in the descriptions. A tendency some people have is just to put keyword, and just stuff them all in. Write the description for somebody to read. And I think the more concise you can be, the better, with obviously the more keywords in. That's kind of the macro level for the content that's published. For the account, for the Pinterest account, board titles make a difference. So the more accurate the board titles can be in terms of SEO, the better. And you also have a description box within those boards, which are also very suitable for keywords and descriptions and making sure everything aligns. On a simplified version, that's like an overview of the SEO element for the board and the content. And then on a micro level, we look at things like when we upload an image, we won't upload an image that has, when you download an image from a software, it comes up IS, like on all of those numbers. We'll actually change the title of the image, the file, so that when we upload the file, the name actually aligns with the text as well. So we do things like that. And something we've been testing quite recently is to have the most important keyword within the description of the pin that's uploaded. That seems to align quite well. And one other subtraction that we've done is to remove all hashtags. We no longer use hashtags at all, even though
Interesting.
the function is still there, but it's not a great strategy. And Pinterest have actually said stop using hashtags because what tends to happen, and we saw this quite a lot back in 2020 and at the beginning of 2021, bots and spam would hijack the hashtags, and they would make you basically making it really easy for these bots and spam accounts to find popular content. They would then steal that pin, take your link out, put their link in, and republish it, and it was just a nightmare. So we just stopped all of those hashtags right away.
Now we know that on Pinterest, we're thinking about it more of a search engine.
Yep.
And, when we're doing SEO, I know we think of like content buckets, and we try and organize the blog so that, maybe there's 3 or 4 content buckets that we do. And then all of the content we create belongs under one of those buckets. Yep. Is that kind of similar to what you want to do on Pinterest?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a very similar analogy, but the way we approach things is with a Pinterest account, you have 2 accounts on Pinterest that are available. You have a personal account and a business account. If you are a brand or a content creator or somebody that's using Pinterest with the sole purpose of monetizing that traffic or selling a product, it should firstly be a business account for analytics and a few other reasons. But in terms of what you pin and how to pin it, it's important to have only boards that align with the brand. So the more aligned it is with the brand, the easier it is for Pinterest to figure out what it is that your account is, but also for people that ever see your profile, they know exactly what it is. So we don't have the bucket analogy, but we definitely have a relevancy factor. So it's like only create content that aligns with your brand, and don't share anything on Pinterest that doesn't link back to your site, and don't pin something for the sake of pinning it because you think people may like it. Just keep everything as tightly refined as possible to your products, your messaging, and your brand in general.
Interesting. Okay, so so you're saying that you should only pin stuff that is linking back to your own site. You shouldn't do any sort of, pins that are sharing other people's content and that sort of thing. It should all be brand focused.
Yeah, now definitely. It used to be that people would share other people's popular content, and what would happen is it offers no value to your site. Sharing other people's content on Pinterest offers no value to your site. But what can happen is you get an inflated impression and inflated reach of your account, but it doesn't translate to anything in particular. Pinterest recently, maybe last year, I kind of lost track of time a little bit. They pretty much said there's no value, there's no SEO value in sharing other people's content. So we'd already stopped by this point anyway because it didn't make any sense. The only caveat to this is a brand new account from scratch, as in you've just made one today, you have no content of your own. you have 10 or 15 boards that are blank. In this instance, we kind of populate those boards with popular content on Pinterest. We know it's not going to impact the site and store revenue or traffic at all, but we do feel that in the very early weeks, having content that is relevant and aligned to your product on a Pinterest account is likely to impact how quickly Pinterest understands like your Pinterest business account.
Sometimes it's easier to follow things you shouldn't do. Is there any kind of big no-nos on Pinterest, like anything that's going to get your account blocked, banned, reduce your impressions, or just negatively affect your account or brand?
Yeah, there's a few actually. It's a great question. I think anyone that uses Pinterest as a business owner would probably benefit from this. The hashtags that we mentioned, even though you think you're doing something right, if spam and bots are stealing your content, the algorithm on Pinterest would still think that image is yours. So they're likely to shut your account down. And it does happen and has happened. So definitely avoid those. The other thing is to approach Pinterest with the one and done mindset. So it's once you've pinned that piece of content once, leave it. It'll do its thing on the platform and just kind of let it do its thing. And the other thing is scheduling tools. So previously, we used them for all of our clients up until the beginning of last year. And what we noticed across the board, pretty much overnight, with 99% of the clients we were working with, the impressions and reach was kind of slowly declining, only very marginally. It wasn't like a crash. It was just slowly, small percentages each day. And we didn't know what was going on. We tested everything. It took us a while to figure out what was happening. But it looked like any content that was being pinned through a scheduling tool, even though it was an approved app by Pinterest, the reach and the impressions and the clicks was just dropping off dramatically. And then we just pulled all of our clients off these apps and we manually pin to Pinterest, because Pinterest actually has its own scheduling tool, and we just used it. And within a few months, we had surpassed the traffic that it saw previously before it declined. So we don't know. It might just be that all of our clients' accounts seem to fall at the same time, and then they rose at the same time when we pulled them. That might be the case, but I'm likely to think, I'm leaning into thinking it's probably impacted like quite a lot of people.
What type of content is working on Pinterest, or what should brands and people be making to succeed on Pinterest?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's two answers to that. There's one answer for the organic strategies, and there's a different answer for the paid. So I'll give both. For the organic, and this is just stuff that we've tested, it may not be the narrative of other platforms and it may not be what other people have seen, but with organic growth, we see static images still as the number one driver of traffic. We don't see video perform that well. It just doesn't seem to convert to clicks. People watch it, but they don't click through. However,
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. We pushed video heavy a few years back, and it just didn't work. But Pinterest have introduced a new feature recently, and that feature is called an idea pin. And an idea pin is the equivalent of Facebook's and Instagram story, and they even have that bar at the top on when you use the app on your phone, and you can see these stories, and you can create video, you can create static images like a slideshow. But we really like these because you're able to add a clickable link if you sell a product. So it would link you from that idea pin directly to your product. So and they're going viral. It's easy for those to go viral because it's a new feature. Pinterest are pushing it quite hard. So they're giving exposure more freely. And it's definitely a way to grow a brand for sure, is so idea pins and static images. With the paid advertising, we see cold prospecting, traffic, and standard conversion campaigns. Static images work the best. But for retargeting, we see user-generated content, video content, perform way better than static images, definitely.
Hey guys, we put a bunch of effort into making great content for this YouTube channel, so please hit subscribe, leave us a comment, hit like, and tell a few friends about it.